So Noche UFC is officially in the books, and Diego Lopes just landed one of the nastiest spinning elbows that I have ever seen in one of the most violent UFC fights that I have seen. Shout out to Lopes and Silva for absolutely delivering. And listen, we all could not wait for this fight to happen because we knew that it was chaos waiting to happen. And that is exactly what we saw in the main event. So excited to recap this one and break down what we saw because listen, we knew coming into this card, Noche UFC, right? They were at the Sphere last year and now here. It just felt like this card on paper was some cheeks, man, right? But we did have some exciting moments on this card. We had some prospects getting some huge wins, so there were a lot of good things on this card. But it was all about the main event. It was a big fight in the featherweight division, and it absolutely delivered. Let's hop right into it. The main event, Diego Lopes versus Jean Silva. Listen, Diego proved me wrong, man. Like, I thought that Jean Silva was going to find a KO in this fight, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that I believed Diego Lopes' defense was going to be an issue in this fight because Jean Silva, you got to see it. He's got some serious power in his hands. That right hand down the middle, it is ferocious. But the bottom line is, Silva made a massive mistake in the first round, and that was deciding to throw that, I think it was a spinning back kick to where Diego Lopes was able to get a hold of him and was able to take him down and completely dominate Silva on the ground for a majority of the first round. Now listen, people were saying 10-8 round, 10-8 round. I don't believe that it was a 10-8 round because we saw Silva landing some nice front kicks up the middle on Diego Lopes before, getting taken down and dominated. But there is no question that when Diego took him down, he had a significant advantage there. He was landing some nasty elbows, some ferocious ground and pound, and I thought the fight was going to get stopped because you saw Jean Silva bucking, trying to create space, trying to get that separation to get back to his feet to where he ultimately was able to get that, which that was very impressive to fight out of a dangerous position like that. But it was pure domination in round number one by Diego Lopes, and look, I said about Jean Silva, he's got that wide stance, right? He's very heavy on, in his base. He, digs in and throws these big, powerful shots, but he doesn't deal with leg kicks very well, right? And Diego hopped on the leg kicks early, which I thought would pay off if the fight got into those later rounds. But we all knew that this was just mayhem once these guys decided to get after it. It was the domination on the ground from Diego Lopes that kind of got the hands to drop even lower from Silva, fatiguing him just a little bit. Even though I don't think Silva looked that tired, it brought his hands down a little bit more. It had Jean Silva biting down, starting to move forward and bringing him into that range to where Diego Lopes could find that window of opportunity because in round number two, Jean Silva, his corner was even saying it. He ended up in basically the worst position other than getting knocked down or submitted. He was in the worst position he could possibly be in against a guy like Diego Lopes. On your back, Diego taking your back, raining down nasty elbows, and you got out of that position. So theoretically, things are going to get better here, right? Silva came out. I think he was very confident, right? Being in those positions, he was throwing caution to the wind, was throwing these big shots, was landing some nasty shots on Diego Lopes, but it was the composure. It was the veteran savviness that Diego Lopes brought to this fight that ultimately I think helped him propel here. Not only is he just a complete mixed martial artist, but having been there, done that, man. And we know Diego Lopes is incredibly durable. He's got a hell of a chin on him. And if you get hit by Diego clean, he can knock out anybody in this weight class. So the grappling in the first round, it was key for Diego Lopes. Now, I was a little bit worried for Diego because we haven't seen him grapple a ton in his fights, right? He's became more of a striker, right? So, when you haven't grappled a lot in your fights, especially recently, and then you go out there in a 5-rounder, is that going to fatigue you as the fight plays out? But the bottom line is we saw a calm and composed Diego Lopes when the shit hit the fan, when it got chaotic, when it got ugly. He was the guy that thrived because Jean Silva, he kind of fights like McGregor. He's got that long karate kind of stance, but then he starts throwing stuff like John Jones, these wild step-in elbows, these spinning elbows, and it felt like Silva was starting to find his groove and kind of hit that flow state, and then Diego Lopes said, go ahead and overextend, dog, and watch what happens, and he went boom, and landed that nasty spinning elbow and was able to put down Jean Silva. So listen, Diego Lopes fought a very good fight. The first round was brilliant, getting the takedown, controlling Jean Silva, beating him up on the ground. And in round 2, we saw Silva shake it off very well, right? Move forward, got into the pocket, was letting his hands go. I feel like his confidence started to build from having been in those positions. And he landed some big, powerful shots, man, that were rocking Diego Lopes, knocking him around. But the composure of Diego was incredible, man. It was absolutely incredible. And then Jean Silva got overzealous, right? We know his tactics, the showboating around, and it looked like he was getting kind of tired on the fence, putting his hands up, and then boom, he would step in and land a big right hand. So Diego ate some massive shots, dude. He ate some massive shots, and those shots that Silva's been landing, they've been putting guys out. But that's the difference against the top of the division against a dog like Diego Lopes, and we got to see that. And Lopes was calming the chaos, man. He waited for Silva to make those mistakes. His hands were coming down low. He was swinging. He was getting himself out of position, and he made Silva pay badly by landing a vicious, that was a ferocious spinning elbow, man. Absolutely ferocious. This was a massive win for Diego Lopes, man. A massive win because the Fighting Nerds, right, that team, they've all taken their L's now, right? Bahalio lost to Imavov. Prates lost to Ian Gary, but he bounced back well against Jeff Neal. We saw Mauricio Rufy get exposed against Benoit Saint-Denis. And now down goes Jean Silva, right? But this was chaos, man. It was violent. It was a competitive fight. The first round was dominant by Lopes, but then we saw Silva hit the gas, and he was landing some big shots. And the tide was starting to shift. And then Diego Lopes said, not so fast. Not so fast. Right, and landed that nasty elbow. He was able to counter with some decent shots, the leg kicks, the grappling. Diego Lopes, for as ugly as it was at times, he was fighting so smart in there in terms of controlling the chaos, man, and taking advantage of Silva getting overly overzealous, getting overly aggressive. Made him pay. And the bottom line, you can't do that against the best guys in the world, and Diego Lopes showed that. And that's why he's one of the best fighters in this weight class for sure, right? And put some respect on the name of Alexander Volkanovski, right? Going out there, putting on a masterclass like he did against a super dangerous guy like Lopes. Lopes is ferocious, man. He's got crazy power. He's got a granite chin, right? And he can do everything. He's got good striking on the feet, and we got to see the ground game in the first round, right? I thought we would see him go back to that in the second round, look to take the fight to the floor again, but we saw Silva stand his ground pretty well. This fight was violent, man. It was chaos. It was super entertaining. Dominant round 1 by Lopes. Silva started to bounce back, land those big shots. It looked like Lopes was in trouble, and then he landed that vicious spinning elbow. Great performance by Diego Lopes, man. Great performance by Lopes. And I picked Jean Silva to win, but like I said, I was rooting for Lopes to get this done. I like Lopes, man. He's got a fun style. I just like the guy, man. He's cool. Right? I like the cowboy hat, that picture we've all seen going around. The dude's just a savage. Every time he shows up, he's going to put on a banger, right? And he puts himself in a unique position, right? He basically said, look, if I need one more, okay, right? And I could see maybe him versus Aljamain Sterling next, and the winner puts himself on deck for a title shot. Maybe they do Mobstar versus Diego Lopes and run that one back. I don't know. There's some options here for Diego Lopes because it sounds like maybe it's going to be Lerone versus Volkanovski, maybe, in December or early next year. We'll see. This was a massive victory for Diego Lopes. Going out there, derailing the Jean Silva hype train, displaying the grappling, tiring him out, landing the leg kicks, and landing it's not like he just beat Jean Silva by decision or, kind of gritted one out here. He got a ferocious knockout, man. Absolutely ferocious stuff from Diego Lopes. Dude's an absolute dog. And for Jean Silva, he'll bounce back, man. This guy's very, very skilled. He's very skilled. He showed that he belongs, right? It was an ugly first round, but he weathered the storm, got out of a horrific position, and was able to land some big shots on a guy like Diego Lopes to where the tide was starting to turn. But it was Diego Lopes staying calm and composed, not overswinging, not getting himself out of position, and being that savvy guy in there that Lopes is, backed by that dogness, and he knocked him out. Great performance by Diego Lopes, man. Him versus Mobstar, him versus Aljamain Sterling. I feel like those are the options that we're probably looking at next for Diego Lopes. And hey, man, I wouldn't mind seeing Jean Silva versus Kevin Vallejos run that one back, right? We saw that on the Contender Series. Vallejos has been racking off some wins. Maybe that's a fight we get next. Not sure. Maybe they give Jean Silva another ranked opponent. Badass fight, man. Big win for Diego Lopes. Calming the chaos. Made Silva pay for being overzealous and overswinging. Great performance by Diego Lopes. Co-main event, Rob Font versus David Martinez. I picked David Martinez to win this fight for exactly what we saw in this fight. for a guy that's new in the UFC, right? He's a guy that's got this kind of veteran presence to him in there, man. I mean, this guy, he looks small in this weight class, right? I know Rob Font's kind of a decently sized guy in the bantamweight division, but David Martinez, he looked like a flyweight in there, but he was fighting like one. His output was crazy. The speed of his kicks, the movement, the timing. I mean, it was a problem for Rob Font all night long, and that's what I anticipated. That's what I thought coming into this fight, is Rob Font was the better boxer, right? He's been in there with the better competition, but he's later in his career, right? He's a little bit slower, a little bit more flat-footed. It's going to be a problem against a speedster like David Martinez, man. I mean, Martinez looked like a flyweight in there, dude. He was so fast. He was so fast in his fight IQ, mixing up the kicks to the leg, to the body, to the head, throwing those big power shots, hanging in the pocket a little bit, then moving, sticking and moving. I mean, David Martinez is the Energizer Bunny in there, man. I mean, he's just bouncing around. He's so fast. He was so much faster than Rob Font. While he was smaller, he was just way faster. Way faster, and that's what it came down to. The footwork, the speed, the elusiveness, it was very much on display. That's why I picked David to win this fight, for is exactly what we saw in this matchup. Now, we did see Font start to get the jab going, which there I was starting to get a little bit worried, but we saw Martinez fighting out of the southpaw stance to try to, play the lead hand game to kind of kill the jab of Rob Font, but once things were kind of maybe he's not the best out of the southpaw stance, right? So then he would switch back because his offense is really good out of the orthodox stance. Then we would see him do that, and then we would see Font kind of catch him in between combos. But outside of that, I mean, David Martinez, huge win, man. Huge win. Beating Simon Oliveira in the debut, and then you're supposed to be fighting Quang Lei, and then now you get, inserted into a co-main event against a top 10 guy in Rob Font, who's been the prospect killer. Big win for David Martinez, man. Was super composed, lightning fast, mixing things up well. Great performance by David Martinez, and it's very clear that we have seen a guy like Rob Font slow down, but don't take away from the speedster. That is David Martinez. Big win. Rafa Garcia, Jared Gordon. So Bilal Muhammad tweeted out that Jared Gordon, got hit by a car or whatever the day before the fight. And listen, when I saw Jared Gordon step in there and he had that knee sleeve on, I kind of wanted to change my pick right then and there, because I'm like, something is off, right? And then when we saw Jared Gordon after the first exchanges, he wasn't sitting on any of his shots. And I'm like, that's not the Jared Gordon that we know. We just saw him against Thiago Moises, right? He was boxing, getting the high guard going, popping his shots out there, was digging his feet in, throwing these big shots. We just didn't see it, right? He was kind of standing up in the air and he wasn't able to really drive off that back leg. And I'm like, this is going to be a problem, right? Because both of these guys, they kind of have the same style, right? They just stand in there and box. They could grapple a little bit, but I expected kind of a firefight on the feet, and a compromised Gordon against a game guy like Garcia. It's a disaster waiting to happen. But the bottom line is Rafa Garcia fought a great fight, man. He was landing some good shots, hanging in the pocket, trading with Jared Gordon, was able to hurt him, put him down, and then was able to get the stoppage in there. So a big performance here, big win for Rafa Garcia over a solid guy. While Gordon's not ranked, he's a very solid guy in this weight class. So what a savage from Gordon to go in there and grit that one out. But that was a very impressive performance by Rafa Garcia. Was composed, landed some big shots, and was able to get Gordon out of there. Big win for Rafa Garcia. I knew something wasn't right with Gordon, man, with that sleeve and the way that he just wasn't able to dig in on his shots like we normally see. Kelvin Gastelum, Dustin Stoltzfus. The classic Kelvin Gastelum special, man, which is miss weight, come in, and win fights. That's what Kelvin Gastelum does better than anybody. Look at him in this picture, man. That's a bloated up Kelvin Gastelum. Miss weight at welterweight, miss weight at 185 pounds. But the bottom line is whenever Kelvin gets in there, we know what to expect. It's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a fun scrap. His hands look sharp tonight. They look sharp. His defense, he was kind of a little sluggish, pulling in and out of range. But man, that 1-2 was nasty. The pull 2 that Kelvin was landing, he busted up Dustin Stoltzfus with some nasty boxing, man. He just did. Right, we saw Stoltzfus take him down, control him a little bit, land a few shots of his own, but the power and the more damaging shots was clearly on the side of Kelvin Gastelum in this fight. This was a great performance by Kelvin Gastelum, despite, while I think Kelvin is definitely slowed down and he keeps missing weight, which is, completely ridiculous at this point. But the bottom line is every time Kelvin shows up, we know he's going to scrap. His hands look good in this fight. Big win for Kelvin Gastelum, especially because he missed weight. Getting a win kind of helps your case. But again, it's like, you can't be missing weight, man. And that's the Kelvin special. Missing weight, going in there and winning these fights. Nice win over Dustin Stoltzfus, but he's got to stop missing weight, man. But again, those hands were crispy. Alexander Hernandez versus Diego Ferreira. I picked Alexander to win this fight for pretty much what we saw. Now, I thought that this fight would go the distance, but it was the footwork and the elusiveness of Alexander Hernandez that I felt like it was going to frustrate Diego in this fight, right? He was going to kind of pull him into his shots. He was going to throw some kicks from the outside, sting and move. We really saw that on display against Chase Hooper, and I feel like that's kind of the evolution that we're seeing from Hernandez, man. Not just being this guy that marches in the range, sticks and moves, fights this kind of tactical fight from the outside. That's what you need to do against a heavy hitter like Diego, man, because you saw that Alexander respected the power of Ferreira. I mean, he was not wanting to exchange in the pocket whatsoever, pulled him into the counter shot. Beautiful stuff by Alexander Hernandez. Biggest win of his career over a big, dangerous, powerful guy in this weight class in Diego Ferreira. Big win for Hernandez. Santiago Luna versus Quang Le. I picked Luna to win this fight, man. I think I said second round finish here, and he goes out there and gets a stoppage in the first round, and it wasn't looking good, right? Santiago, young guy, right? UFC debut, moving forward, was getting hit by some big shots from Quang, but then he was composed, right? That young man's chin, dude, you know, it was on display, ate some big shots, landed some big shots, and then ultimately he was able to kind of push Lee up against the fence, didn't have a lot of success with the grappling, and we've seen Luna's got good grappling coming into this, right? But we saw Lee have the answer for that. Then it took place out in space, got in close, Luna landed a big shot, put him down. Great performance by Santiago, man. Faced some early adversity, was getting banged up with some big shots, got hurt a little bit, hung in there, and was able to get a finish. Big win in the debut for Santiago Luna, going out there and getting a finish over a veteran at this point who's doesn't have a ton of fights in the UFC, but he is a guy that has been very experienced in terms of how he fights and how he's able to been, coming off of a nice win, submission win over Gaston Bolaños. Big win here for Santiago Luna. Got to keep your eye on, man. That was impressive. Medina versus Dusko Todorovic. This is what we were expecting, man. Look, Medina's basically just a moving heavy bag. He's got grit, he's got heart, but his skills are just not professional level. That's the bottom line. That's what I said coming into this. And Dusko going out there, getting the submission, very impressive stuff. Landed some good shots on the feet, pushed him up against the fence, was able to take him down. Medina had no answers. I'm sure he's probably going to get cut after this fight. This was a must-win for both guys. Todorovic, he's the more skilled fighter. That's how I think a lot of us saw it coming into this one. Medina, just not a professional level fighter, at least for the UFC in my eyes. Big win and much needed for Todorovic. Claudio Puelles versus Joaquin Silva. Claudio Puelles shit the bed, man. To me, this was his fight to lose. Listen, I know that Silva's got decent, jiu-jitsu, decent ground game, but it was basically the physicality that started to take over, right? I mean, the first round, Puelles, he dominated him on the ground, right? The second round was close, and then the third round, you just can't get dropped in a close fight later on, right? And that's what we saw. Silva pressed the action, land those big shots, was able to hurt Claudio once again, and this was a big win for Silva, right? A lot of people counted him out. I did. I thought that Puelles was going to be able to go in there, get to the grappling, win the minutes, and get a decision here. Good performance by Silva, landing the big power shots and getting it done. But again, to me, this was Claudio's fight to lose, and he did just that. Tatiana Suarez versus Amanda Lemos. What can we say here, man? I picked Tatiana Suarez to win. I thought she could find a submission here, but she basically just kind of stalled Lemos up against the fence. And Lemos, she was defending really well against the takedowns, right? Even though Suarez was kind of pushing her up against the fence, was able to get her hands locked, was able to take her down. Amanda popped right back up, but then she wouldn't get to space. I didn't understand that, right? And then in the third round, we saw her get to space. We saw her start to land some of those big shots. And I'm like, if you did that earlier on in this fight, I feel like that could have given Lemos a much better opportunity to get this thing done because she was leaps and bounds better than Suarez on the feet. So boring performance here by Suarez. Did what she had to do, I guess, to get the win. Now she puts herself in a position to probably fight the winner of Jandiroba versus Dern for the title next. And maybe those matchups will be a little bit more entertaining considering they are both grapplers. But I feel like Lemos, if she was stopping the takedowns well, if she could have gotten the space, I feel like she could have landed some of those shots to kind of sway this fight like she was doing in round number 3. But at the end of the day, the strength, the physicality, and the grappling of Suarez, it was too much for Lemos in this fight. Got the win. Wasn't super exciting, though, stuff from Suarez. Aguilar versus Luis Garule. I thought that this was a good matchup for Luis to go out there and get this one done. Listen, Aguilar, he's decent, right? He's durable, got some good power, got a really nasty guillotine. He was able to land the more damaging shots here. He got ahead early in the first round, was able to land some big shots, and I thought Luis's pressure, his output was eventually going to be a factor. It wasn't whatsoever. Jesus controlled the fight, landed the more powerful shots. To me, this was a devastating loss for Luis, man, because he got busted up by Ode Osborne. It's like, okay, it's a fast veteran guy on the feet. Then you come out here against what I thought was a pretty good matchup for him, and he got, I don't want to say got dominated, but this was a convincing win from Jesus Aguilar. Not sure where Luis goes from here. Big win for Jesus Aguilar, though. He looked good in this fight. Zachary Reese versus Cedric Dumas, and, we had the low blow, could not continue, and I don't even know what to say about this fight, man. I just don't even know what to say. Come on, man. The low blow, Dumas was down, and then it's just, I don't know. What a disaster this fight was. I thought Zachary Reese would go out there and get the KO, but we get, could not continue, no contest, whatever. BS here. Alessandro Costa, Alden Correa. Alden Correa looked fantastic in this fight. I know Costa suffered, it looked like an injury at one point here, but the bottom line is Alden Correa was busting him up. He was ahead with the boxing, the movement, the speed, the power. This guy looked very UFC ready. So whether he won this fight or not, he clearly showed that he belonged in the UFC. His boxing was on point. He completely dominated Costa in this fight. Costa didn't even look like he belonged in there with Alden Correa. This was a flawless, spectacular performance by Alden Correa. Definitely a guy to keep your eye on because he looked fast and dangerous on the feet. That was a great performance to get the stoppage victory over a guy like Alessandro Costa. Alice Pineda versus Rendon. Pineda was just over swinging. She had no technique on her shots. She was over swinging on everything, allowing Rendon to land the more significant kind of straight shots down the middle, was able to outscore her, push her up against the fence, had her on her bike the whole time. And I thought that this fight was actually really close to where I could have seen it going either way. But it was basically the fact that Rendon was moving forward, was landing good straight shots to where everything that Pineda was doing, she was just winging these big, wild shots, and a lot of them weren't even landing, right? So then Rendon was kind of tagging her, with short little shots. I don't know, man. It just wasn't that great of a fight. And at the end of the day, Rendon did what she needed to do to get the victory. Too much too soon for the 19-year-old Alice. Last but not least, Daniil Danchenko going out there, getting the finish over Rodrigo. I figured Daniil Danchenko would win this fight. He's a better fighter, right? He had the grappling to kind of defend against what Rodrigo would want to do here because on the feet, Cezinado has nothing for Daniil, man. Daniil's going to be one of the better strikers in this weight class. Reminds me of a guy like Rafael Fiziev, dangerous Muay Thai, fast kicks, fast hands, fast elbows. He is a sharp fighter and a guy to keep your eye on. I loved watching him compete on The Ultimate Fighter, and this fight was supposed to happen at 319. It got pushed back, I think, because Rodrigo had an injury. Big win for Daniil Danchenko, not only to go out there and get a win, but to get a finish victory over a guy like Rodrigo Cezinado. Big win for Daniil Danchenko, man. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Let me know what you think below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.